Hi guys, today we are gonna model a cute spider in Blender. And first of all, I'm gonna put my reference image into my Blender file. So in order to do it, I go into front view by pressing 1 on the keyboard, and then I go into my folder and I pick my reference image and then just drag it to my Blender file and drop it here like this. Now I'm gonna place it in front of my camera and scale it until it looks okay. Yes, something like this is fine. I quickly change the color of my image so you can see my shortcuts even if they go over my image, but you don't have to do it. Okay, now we can finally start. I press Shift A and I add a sphere. I press right click on my mouse and I select Shade Smooth to have this smooth shading effect. Now let's start placing my sphere over the image. First of all, I'm gonna hide my background because for now we don't need it. I go back into front view and I position correctly my sphere. Remember that you can go into X-ray view by pressing here or pressing Alt Z. Okay? Now you can see through your mesh. I roughly position my sphere here. I'm gonna disable selection for my reference image, and like this I don't risk to move it by error. Okay, now we are gonna shape my sphere to make it look more like the body of our spider. So I go into edit mode by pressing Tab, and I'm gonna move these vertices up a bit. But remember to have proportional editing enabled. Okay, you can decide how much vertices to move by scrolling with your middle mouse button. And then I'm gonna drag it a little. I'm also gonna do it on top. And I'm also gonna move them to the left a bit because we want a cartoon style, not too perfect, so it doesn't have to be perfectly symmetric. Okay, for now something like this is fine for the body of our character. Now we're gonna model these big and lovely eyes. So we press Shift A and we create another sphere. Shade Smooth, Alt Z, and we place this new sphere where the eye should be. Okay. I'm gonna scale it until it reaches the size of the eye in the drawing. Okay. Something like this. Now, to model the eyelid, we're gonna duplicate this sphere. I rename it immediately, like eye left. This is the body. Okay, now we select our left eye, like this, and we're gonna duplicate it. I press Shift D and release, and now we have our eyelid. Okay, with the eyelid selected, I press S and I scale it a bit to make it bigger. And then I go into front view, and in edit mode, I select all these vertices and I press X and delete vertices. Okay, now you see that we have this funny eyelid. We can also scale it a bit more, like this. Okay, now I select my eyelid and we are gonna add some thickness to it, because for now it's just, it doesn't have any thickness. Okay, we have two ways of doing it. The first one is going into edit mode, select all the vertices and extrude them. So pressing E to extrude, release immediately, and then press S to scale. If you go into front view, you see that you have scaled all the vertices that you extruded, and you can move them down a little bit. Okay, this is the first method, or you can obviously, let's go back with Ctrl Z, you can just select it and add a solidify modifier and choose the thickness that you want. And when you are done with it, just apply it. You see, same result. Perfect. Now we are gonna rotate our eyelid a bit. I go into the side view by pressing 3, and I'm gonna press R and rotate my eyelid a bit, because actually the eye is gonna look a bit up, you know. So here we're gonna have the pupil, and this one, I think it's okay like that. Okay. So let's check my eye. Okay. Actually, we need this part of the eye to be here in front. So I'm gonna rotate the eye also. I'm gonna press R and rotate it. Yes, like this. Okay. This is important because here we're gonna assign a black material to our eye and we're gonna have the pupil. Okay, let's move the eye a bit forward. Okay. Now we can duplicate the eye and the eyelid, always pressing Shift D and moving the right eye until it matches the drawing, like this. What is left to do? We're gonna do the mouth now. Let's do the mouth. The mouth is very simple. It's just a simple curve. I press Shift A and I add a path. Here it is. I move it and place it correctly. Okay. Let's see. Perfect. Scale it a bit. Okay, we need to add thickness to this curve. So we go into the right panel and we go into the curve properties. And you'll see that here in the bevel panel you have a value called depth. And you can increase it and you also may want to fill caps. Okay. We can shape this curve by going into edit mode, always pressing tab or here. Okay. And you can move the vertices like any other vertex. Okay, you'll notice that our mouth is too flat if seen on the side. So let's place it on top of our body. Okay, and now we're gonna move the vertices until the mouth is actually looking like it's part of the body, like this. And also we want these parts to be thinner than the whole mouth. So how do you scale vertices in a curve? You press a vertex and then you press Alt S. The shortcut to scale it is Alt S. You're probably gonna see that I press Alt 1, but it's just because I customized my personal shortcuts. But you don't have to do it, so the default shortcut is Alt S. So I press these two vertices and I press Alt S, like this. Okay, the legs and the hands and the hair will all be done with curves, like we did our mouth. We're gonna create curves for everything else except these two objects. So let's go and model the legs. I quickly add with Shift A another path. And the process is the same. I scale it, I place it where I want it. I go into the curve properties and I increase the depth value. Okay. And now in edit mode, I just edit my leg until it looks like I want. I'm not gonna follow too much the drawing for this because in the end we're just gonna follow our heart. And remember that they have 8 legs, so 3 are gonna be there and the third one will be here. Okay, I select all of them, duplicate them and rotate them. The arm is bended like this because he's holding something, so it's fine. Let's do it just a little smaller. Okay. I duplicate the arm too and rotate it. Let's place it where the arm should be, something near here. Okay. Last thing to do. The ear. For this one, I'm gonna reduce a lot the depth because I want them to be really thin. Okay, something like 0.05. And let's move them around. Let's move the vertices around until okay. Let's duplicate again. Always move the vertices also on the y-axis because it's important to make them look really natural from every view and perspective. Okay, the body of our friend is completely modeled. Now we're gonna go and model the knitting needles here. For the needles, I'm gonna use a cylinder. Yes. We need it to be smaller. I scale it down a lot, something like this, and then I scale it on the z-axis. Too much. Okay, let's try with something like this. Now, a needle has the bottom part, which is a bit extruded, a bit larger, and then it becomes smaller toward the end. So let's go in edit mode. I'm gonna add a loop of vertices by pressing Ctrl R, and I moved it to the bottom like this. Now I go to face select. You can also press Ctrl 3. And now I can select this loop of faces. And I press E to extrude. And then S to scale it. But you see that it does this a bit little weird effect, so let's scale it again only on the z-axis by pressing S, Z. Okay. Better. And for this part, let's select these vertices and press S. Okay, we have something that works, I think. I'm gonna add a subdivision surface modifier to make it smoother. And we see that with this modifier, we have to add some edge loops. Otherwise, we risk to lose the shape of our model. So I'm gonna add with Ctrl R another edge loop here and another one here and here. Let's see. Okay, now it looks smooth and with the correct shape. And we can give it to our Lovely friend. Okay. Okay, I think I'm gonna change my transform orientation to normal and then move all these vertices a little to, okay, something like this, and here too. Okay, now it looks perfect and adorable, and we just have to model the heart. Okay, now let's model the heart. For the heart, we are gonna use a simple technique. So first of all, we are not gonna need this one anymore for a while. So I'm gonna hide my spider collection, and we can see clearly what I'm doing. Let's place the cursor to the center of our origins. So I press Shift S, cursor toward origin. Let's go here and we're gonna add a cube. So I press Shift A, cube. Okay. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna collapse all the vertices of this cube until we have only one vertex. And then we're gonna extrude that vertex until we have the shape of an heart. And we're gonna create our shape like this. It's very simple, and I usually model the hearts like this. So let's go into edit mode, select everything with A, okay, and press M, merge at center. Now our cube is just this little vertex. I rename it immediately. Okay. Let's go again into edit mode by pressing Tab, select our vertex with A, and I go into the top view by pressing 7 on the keyboard. Now I can extrude my vertex by pressing E. And you see that I'm actually creating the shape that I want. Okay. Okay, let's go here and change the transform orientation back to global. And now we can create the left part of our heart by adding a mirror modifier. Just be sure that your origin is placed here in the middle between the left and the right part. Okay, on the x-axis is correct. Now we can work and shape our heart, because I don't really like how it looks now, so I'm gonna select these vertices. We can use proportional editing. You see this weird effect here. We can get rid of it by selecting clipping. Now I select this vertex and I move it to the left until it merges with the other one. And now here we have only one vertex who is not moving anymore. And we can also deselect clipping in case we need it. You can also add more vertices by pressing Ctrl R. Okay, now I'm satisfied with the results, so I'm gonna go to object mode and I'm gonna apply my mirror modifier. So now we have just one shape. And now we can go into edit mode again, select all the vertices with A, and then we can press F. And now we have a face between all our vertices, you see. Okay, what we're gonna do now, we're gonna insert this face and connect all the vertices until we have something more, until we have a lot of edges, okay, because after we're gonna use the wireframe modifier to create, to make it look like a spider web. Okay, so let's go in the top view. I select this face and I press I to insert. Okay, I stop here and now I start connecting all these vertices. First of all, I'm gonna add here and here with Ctrl R 2 edge loops. So let's go back to vertex selection, and now I'm gonna use the knife tool by pressing K. And I'm gonna connect some vertices. Okay, let's use a sculpt tool to smooth a little all these faces. So I'm gonna go into sculpt mode and I'm gonna select the smooth. I can't see my wireframe anymore and I need it, so I go here into object properties and I select in the viewport display wireframe. Okay. Let's reduce the strength a little. Okay. Okay. Let's go back to edit mode. I'm gonna add 2 more edge loops and connect them like this. Okay. Now we have our heart with all our edges, but we need it to look like a spider web. So I select it. We can deselect wireframe because we don't need it anymore. And we go back to modifier properties. And we add, where it is, here, wireframe modifier. Oh my. He gave us this terrifying effect, but it's probably because the thickness is too much. So let's reduce it a lot. Okay. I'm gonna add 0 here. Okay. This is the correct value for my object. Okay, I'm gonna scale it and make it bigger, like this. Okay, and now we can unhide our objects. I don't need a reference image anymore, so I'm gonna delete it. Okay. Now I'm gonna arrange all the objects until I have them placed correctly, like in my concept. So I go into edit mode and I place the cursor here, and I add another path. Same process. Okay, now I'm just gonna duplicate this heart because we're gonna have some small real hearts on the top of the spider. And so I'm gonna duplicate it with Shift D, but in this case we don't need this effect, so we delete the wireframe. Okay, we scale it. We need some thickness, of course, so we select all the vertices and we press E to extrude, and then we move them down like this. Okay, and then I add an edge loop here in the middle and scale it. Okay, and I can also use the sculpt mode and the draw tool with the symmetry enabled, and I'm gonna give it some volume, you know. Okay, I'm also gonna select a few vertex here on the eyelid and move them with the proportional editing enabled up a bit, so they make this nice arc. Okay, now I'm just gonna work a little on this shape because I want it to be less spherical and more natural, like a real body. You can leave it like that if you like it, or you can change it too and make it a little more cartoonish. I think I'm just gonna move this vertex down a bit, like this, and maybe scale these ones. Okay, maybe move them a little like this. Yes. And this is the final look of our little spider. First of all, I'm gonna show you my render settings. This, this character is rendered in Eevee, and these are the render parameters. I enabled ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space reflections. Okay, now let's go and see all the materials that I used. So let's see how I did the body. Let's go into the shading viewport. Okay, you see that it's just a simple gradient. And these are the nodes that I used. In case you don't know it, to add a node, you just have to press Shift A, and you can select it from here, or you can go in search and add, for example, color ramp here. And you can do it for every node that you see here. So we have a simple principal BSDF node with these parameters. Okay. For the base color, which means the color of our model, I decided to give it a gradient. So I added a texture coordinate node, and I attached it to a mapping, selecting generated. Okay, like this. Then I connected the mapping to a gradient texture spherical, and then I added a color ramp with these values. Okay, this is the pink one. This is for the gradient. Obviously, to place the gradient exactly as I wanted, rotated and so on, I used the mapping. Okay, the mapping node is used to move the gradient as you like. I added a small subsurface effect with a subsurface color, which is this node. I just connected this node to the subsurface color. Okay, and the last thing I did is this cute effect. You see that it seems like the light is refracting into this skin, like there is a small noise. Okay, you can do it by adding a texture to the roughness. The roughness is this value. Okay, and I attached these nodes, a noise texture, a mapping to move it, and the texture coordinate node. If I remove it, you see that it's all very flat, but if I add it again, here it is. Okay, I used the same material for the eyelids. For the hearts, here is just a very simple principal BSDF with this color code. For our web, we have a simple principal BSDF. For our needles, we have a metallic material, which is always a principal BSDF, but with the metallic value increased to 1, and these values of specular and roughness. And now the last thing I did, obviously for the mouth, we always have a principal BSDF, and this is the color code. And the last thing I did is the eyes. Okay, we have two colors. For the white, this is the node that I used. And for the black part, same thing, but obviously in black. As I said at the beginning of the video, I just selected this loop of faces and assigned a black material. Okay, and that's it. And I used this black material for the legs and the arms too. Now let's go and see how I did the lightning. As you can see, I used really a lot of lights in this case. Let's see what we have here. 2 area lights in front, one from the left and one from the right. A sun here with these values. A spotlight that illuminates all the model from the top with these values. A rim light on the back of our model, which is always an area light with these values. And then a lot of point lights. When you see that your 3D model is too flat, when you render it, it's not enough, it doesn't have enough, small lights and reflection, just add as many point light as you want. For example, this one gives this effect on the eyes. Okay, if I remove it, you can see that we don't have these cool effects anymore. And then I added this one, for example, to illuminate this part. I also used small point lights here and here to illuminate the hearts. And another one here. Well, I hope you enjoyed modeling this cute romantic spider with me. And if you like it or you have any questions, please just ask in the comment section everything that you want, or if you have any suggestion for future tutorials. And please remember to always like and subscribe to my YouTube channel to have more tutorials and free 3D models. And we're gonna see each other next week. Bye!